The quiet hum of machines filled the sterile hospital room, broken only by the steady beep of the heart monitor. The room was bathed in a soft blue glow from the monitors, giving it a sense of both serenity and fragility. On the bed lay Adrian, his chest rising and falling rhythmically, though faintly, as if each breath required its own kind of struggle. His skin was pale under the fluorescent lights, and the thin wires attached to the electrodes on his chest seemed to tether him between life and uncertainty. Beside him sat Elena, a nurse whose uniform blended seamlessly with the atmosphere of the room. Yet her presence brought something warmer, something almost tender to the cold environment. She rested one hand on his chest, feeling the weak but steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath her palm. Her eyes held a softness that extended far beyond her professional duty. For Elena, Adrian was not just another patient. It had been 3 nights ago when Adrian was rushed into the emergency room. A car accident on the highway had left him unconscious, his body battered and his pulse dangerously weak. Elena had been on night duty when they wheeled him in, blood staining his shirt, his breathing shallow. She remembered how chaotic that moment had been, the flashing red lights from the ambulance, the voices of doctors barking orders, the metallic scent of blood that clung to the air. For Elena, emergencies were part of the job, but something about Adrian stopped her in her tracks. Maybe it was the youth etched in his features, the way his face seemed untouched by the harsher realities of the world. Maybe it was the silence in his expression even amidst chaos, as if he were lost in a dream. Whatever it was, she found herself drawn to him, her focus tightening like a thread. The doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize him, and Elena had been at his side through every moment, holding IV bags, checking vitals, whispering words of encouragement even though she knew he couldn't hear them. At one point, when his heart rate dropped, she pressed her palm to his cold hand and whispered desperately, "Don't you dare give up now. Not like this, not tonight." Somehow, his pulse steadied, and though the doctors credited the medication and equipment, Elena wondered if maybe, just maybe, he had heard her. And now, days later, though his condition had stabilized, Adrian had yet to wake. Elena found herself spending more time by his bedside than she should have. She told herself it was her duty, to make sure he was comfortable, to monitor the machines, to check for any signs of distress. But deep down, she knew she lingered for reasons beyond her role. She would sit in the quiet room, sometimes humming softly, sometimes speaking to him as if he could hear every word. "You know," she said one evening, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead, "you scared everyone out there. The doctors didn't think you'd make it through the night. But you proved them wrong." Her fingers traced lightly over his hand, careful not to disturb the IV needle. "I don't even know your story yet. Who's waiting for you outside these walls? Do you have a family? A lover? Someone praying for you?" She paused, studying his still face. "Or maybe you're like me. Someone who knows what it's like to be alone." There was no answer, of course. Just the rhythmic beep of the monitor, reminding her that he was still alive, still fighting. Her colleagues began to notice how much time she spent with Adrian. Some teased her, saying she was developing feelings for a man who hadn't even opened his eyes. She laughed it off, but in the quiet of the night, their words unsettled her. Perhaps they were right. She had always believed in professional boundaries, yet here she was, breaking them. With every heartbeat she counted. She wondered what he would think if he ever woke up and learned that she had sat there, night after night, talking to him as if they were old friends. One night, during her shift, she found herself confiding in him in a way she had never done with anyone else. "When I was younger," she whispered, her voice soft in the dim glow of the monitor, "I lost someone too. My brother. He was only 22, and he died in a crash. I wasn't there for him. I wasn't strong enough then. I was just a teenager, crying in my room while my parents tried to hold everything together. But I promised myself, if I ever had the chance to save someone, to stay by their side, I would never leave them alone." Her voice cracked, but she pressed her palm gently against his chest. "So you see, Adrian, I can't let go. Not until you open your eyes." It was just past dawn when Elena, half asleep in the chair beside his bed, felt movement. She jolted awake, her eyes darting to the monitor. His heart rate had risen slightly. She looked at his face and saw his eyelids flutter. "Adrian," she whispered, leaning closer. His lips parted, and his voice came out hoarse, almost inaudible. "Where am I?" Elena's heart leapt. She quickly pressed the call button, summoning the doctors, but she kept her hand on his chest. "You're safe," she said, tears welling in her eyes. You're in the hospital. You've been unconscious for days. But you're okay now. Adrian blinked, his gaze unfocused, but his eyes finally met hers. For a brief second, there was recognition, not of her identity, but of the comfort she radiated. You stayed, he murmured weakly, before slipping back into sleep, though this time it was natural, peaceful. Adrian's recovery was slow, but steady. Over the next weeks, he regained his strength, and with each passing day, he learned more about the woman who had never left his side. Elena, he repeated one afternoon, testing the sound of her name. You've been here the whole time. She smiled softly. I had to make sure you pulled through. But why? He asked, his voice still fragile. She hesitated, her gaze falling to the floor. Because you reminded me of someone I lost. And I couldn't let that happen again. Adrian reached out, his hand trembling, and she instinctively took it. His grip was weak, but it was there. Then maybe I survived for you, he whispered. As weeks turned into months, Adrian's health improved. He began walking again, his laughter returning, filling the hospital halls with warmth. Elena was there for each milestone, her presence a constant thread through his healing. But their bond had grown into something deeper, something neither of them could ignore. They spent hours talking, sharing stories, and slowly, they became more than patient and nurse. One evening, as Adrian was preparing to leave the hospital, he turned to her. You gave me more than care, Elena. You gave me hope when I didn't even know I needed it. She smiled, though her heart ached with the thought of saying goodbye. That's what I'm here for. But Adrian shook his head. No, you were here for me. And I don't want to lose that. When he finally walked out of the hospital, Elena thought that might be the last time she saw him. Patients leave, lives go on, and nurses move to the next room. But a week later, she found him waiting outside the hospital, leaning on a cane, a hesitant smile on his lips. I thought you might like some company on your way home, he said. And from that day on, their bond deepened beyond what either of them had expected. Months later, Adrian and Elena walked side by side in the park, the crisp air carrying the scent of spring. He was stronger now, his body healed, but his gratitude for her remained unshaken. You know, he said, glancing at her, when I was lying in that bed, I don't remember much. But I remember your voice. It was like an anchor. Like you were pulling me back. Elena's eyes softened. Then I'm glad I didn't let go. He stopped, turning to her fully. Promise me something. Promise you'll stay. Not because you feel you have to, but because you want to. She looked at him, her heart full, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future, not of loss, but of love. I promise, she whispered. And under the brightening sky, they walked on, hand in hand, two souls who had found each other in the most fragile of moments, and chose to hold on, together.